ரொம்ப நேரம் அப்படியே உட்காந்துட்டு இருக்க முடியாது. ரொம்ப நேரமாக உட்காந்து சும்மாவே உட்காந்துருக்கேன்னா அதுக்கு மேலே முடியல.
ஓகே சார்.
ஓகே. Right. Let's understand certain things here. Gopi, you're able to hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's try to understand something. How many of you been to any a large temple like Tirupati or something like that? How many of you have been to? Hope Gopi would have visited Tirupati, but I'm not sure about the others. How about Satish, Karthik?
I'm not, sir.
Okay. Right. Have you gone to any live match?
Good evening, all. We are still waiting for everyone to join, so we will go ahead and get started once everyone joins.
Huh?
And thanks for joining.
இன்னொரு வாய்ஸ் வந்து
புரியல.
இன்னொரு வாய்ஸ் வந்து கேட்டுச்சு.
கேட்டுச்சா? ரைட், ஓகே. ஸோ அதை தான் கேட்டுக்கிட்டு இருந்தேன், அவங்க பேசுறது எதுவும் கேட்குதா அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு.
இப்போ தான் கேட்குது.
சரி, ஓகே, இருங்க. அது நான் ஒன்றும் பண்ண முடியாது அந்த இடத்துல. நான் வேணால் அதை மியூட் பண்ண முடியுமான்னு பார்க்குறேன். மியூசிக் ஆடியோவை ஆடியோ செட்டிங்ஸ். ஓகே. இப்போ கேட்காது. இப்போ பாருங்கள். இப்போ அவங்க பேசுனாங்கன்னா எதுவும் கேட்கக்கூடாது. ஃபைன். Okay. See, if you have visited any of this, what is it called, the large temple or wherever you see a lot of crowd is assembling, like if you go to a theater on a first day first show, or you're planning to go and watch a live match. Now there will be a lot of crowd, like India-Pakistan match. If you're planning to watch it, there will be a huge crowd. How this crowd is going to be managed, right, in real time? So we will have different arrangements with respect to seating. Seating arrangements are going to be different, correct? So people whomever is paying more, they will be nearer to the gallery, nearer to the ground. I'm just talking about the live match. People whomever pay less, then they will be at the end, right? So that's how the organization will be happening. My point here is, now why do they have this kind of a mechanism? What is the benefit of doing this kind of a management? See, not everyone would be interested in watching the game near to the ground. Somebody might be having the money to buy the ticket to sit in front, or somebody might not be having that money, and somebody might be having the interest of going in front and watching the match, and somebody is not. Like if you go to Tirupati, there will be huge number of people who will be visiting Tirupati every day. My point is, see, if you have, this is where we call them as what, a Moolasthanam. Now people whomever is coming here, they will be all come here, and then they will go and watch, and then they'll come out. Now as the crowd is increasing, managing the crowd will become very complicated. To overcome this, what is that they have done is, if somebody is not interested in waiting and they don't have time for waiting, okay, let us create another queue, right? So let me charge them. Okay, if you are coming in the normal queue, you don't need to pay for anyone, but it will take more of time to reach your destination. Like our destination is having darshan. My point here is, somebody who is not at all interested or not having any time with respect to what? Okay, somebody is waiting in the lobby. Hurry. Okay, so my point here is, what is that I'm trying to mean it as? So if somebody is not at all interested in getting into what is that called, waiting on the queue, and it is going to be consuming a lot of time, then what is that we are planning to do is, I would like to create a separate queue, and I'm going to be charging them some amount. What is the benefit of charging them? See, they will be paying and they will be avoiding the delay. And somebody is also quite interested, quite have a requirement that what? They wanted to go and meet the, they wanted to go to this darshan immediately. So I'll create multiple queues according to the requirement. Let me say one is going to be 100 rupee queue, and the other one is going to be 200 rupee queue, and the other one is going to be 5,000 rupee queue. I can also have 1 lakh queue. That is quite possible. The point is, people whomever is paying 100 rupee, they will be directed to this queue. People whomever is paying 200 rupee, they will be directed to this queue. 5,000 rupees a different queue, and 1 lakh rupees a different queue. The benefit of going for this kind of queues, of course, from the temple's management perspective, they are making some good money. From the user's perspective, they no need to wait. So whatever the delay they can tolerate, that delay they can take it up. Now the similar kind of a requirement. ஒரு நிமிஷம் இருங்க. ஒரு நிமிஷம் இருங்க, நான் என்னோட மொபைல்லேருந்து ஜாயின் பண்ணிக்கிறேன். இப்போ கேக்குதா? இப்போ கிளியரா இருக்கா? I just changed it to my okay. So this is what the point I'm trying to make it as. You have multiple queues. The benefit of having multiple queues, people who don't want it to go for what is that called who don't want that delay, they will be choosing the queue, and according to their budget, whatever the money they have, they might be choosing it. The similar kind of a requirement is possible on your real-time networking also. What I mean to say, in the production environment, there will be a lot of traffic flowing through multiple interfaces, right? The traffic is going to be flowing through different interfaces. But those traffic are not meant for a single application. It could be meant for different applications. Now, after the consolidation of network, earlier we used to have a separate network for voice, separate network for video, and separate network for data. Now, current scenario, that is not the case at all. What I mean to say, you have voice data, video data, data. Now, all of them consolidated and being sent through a single link. So, depending on the type of application, whatever we're using, the requirement is going to be different. What I mean to say, the requirement in the sense, every application may be tolerating some kind of a delay. Now, if I take the voice over IP application, the total delay can be 150 milliseconds, less than or equal to 150 milliseconds. Okay. Now, there is also one more thing. If I have a different application, so there is something called as, this is what the accepted delay, and there is something called as what, a jitter. There is also something called as what, a drop. Acceptable delay, acceptable jitter, and acceptable drop. Delay means the total time taken to reach the destination. That's what the delay. Jitter is variations in reaching that part, reaching the destination. So the traditional example, what I used to say is, think about you're picking up a bus, you're boarding a bus to reach your native. How many hours it will take typically? You think about your destination, your native, right? So from point A to point B, let's assume that it is going to be taking approximately 6 hours and 30 minutes. This is the duration they have given. How many times you have reached exactly at 6 hours 30 minutes on your destination? Sorry guys. Right? How many times you have reached your destination on time perfectly as per the schedule? One day you will be reaching in 6:35, one day you might be reaching in 6:10. One day you might be reaching around 7 o'clock, 7 hours it will be taking. So what I mean to say that this variations in delay is what we are calling it as what? Variations in delay is what we are calling it as a jitter. So this jitter is also going to be a point while we are considering what application traffic is going to be flowing through. So one is delay, the other one is jitter, the third one is what? Drop. Drop in the sense while the traffic is being sent and received on the wire, packet might be dropped because of many reasons, right? So the jitter, acceptable jitter is going to be less than or equal to 30 milliseconds, whereas drop supposed to be less than 1% for voice. So voice over IP means you're supposed to be having acceptable delay of 150 milliseconds, acceptable jitter of 30 milliseconds, and acceptable drop percentage of 1%. Now, if this is what the requirement for the application and the network is not giving that kind of a support, then you can expect that VoIP application is going to be intermittent. Like what? Traffic will be dropped, traffic will be the application while you're trying to connect with the other phone, you might be hearing something, immediately the call can be disconnected. Like this, there are so many things could be possible. Now, why this kind of a delay is happening, or why this kind of a jitter is happening? Let's try to understand that. Delay, jitter, drop. புரியுதா அது என்னன்ட்டு? Delayனா என்ன, jitterனா என்ன, dropனா என்னன்னு புரியுதா? Okay. Now the point is, why this delay is happening? So I have PCA and I have PCB. If A is sending traffic to B, obviously it has to be sent in the form of electrical signals. It will travel all the way to reach the destination. Okay. Now first of all, while the packets are being constructed from system A, not almost all the content can be created with a single packet. Right, we have certain requirements. So maximum size of your packet could be 1500 bytes only. Beyond that, you cannot construct anything. So what basically happens is, when system A is trying to transmit some data to system B, you need to ensure that not all the content can be sent in a single packet. Multiple packets are going to be created. As the packets are being created, the header information is also going to be added. Why this header information is required? Because not all of the devices connected to the same network. You have different network, so you have routers in between. You may be having one router, you may be having more than one router. What I mean to say, when the traffic is being created by system A, which is meant for system B, now the traffic is coming to router 1. Now the router 1 needs to process that packet. What I mean to say, from where the packet is coming from, to where the traffic is given to, and do I know how to reach the destination? Like that kind of a process is going to be taken by your routers. So once that is decided to where it has to be forwarded, router 1 is sending the packet to router 2. Now router 2 also needs to do that work. You understand what I'm saying? The router 2 also needs to do that kind of a work. Because of that, what is that going to be happening? Right, so because of that, what will happen? There will be some process delay. There will be process delay on R2. There will be some process delay on R3. Then only the packet can reach your system B. So because there are multiple devices in between, and every device needs to process the packets, because of that, the delay is going to be added. This is point number 1, the delay. Then why the jitter is happening? Because the packets are going to be sent and received by the routers. So received on one of the interface and forwarded out via the other interface. If the router is flooded with a larger volume of traffic, right, we have so much of traffic is flowing through the router, then obviously it has to wait. The packet, whatever you are sending, may need to wait for its own turn. Only then the packet processing could be possible. There are 100 people who are coming in, whereas the router is capable of handling only 10 packets per second. So the remaining packets may need to wait for another 9 seconds. That is going to be the case. Now if I say 100 packets, 9 seconds I have to wait. What if 1000 packets? So we are not very sure at all the point of time you will have the same number of packets. There will be quite possible that the load can be varying depending on the peak hours. In peak hours you will have larger volume of traffic. In off peak hours we may not be having that kind of a traffic. So depending on the volume of traffic and depending on how much load is there on the device, the capacity of the interfaces, the capacity of the router, based on all, the delay might be varying, and that is going to be causing your jitter. Why packet is going to be dropped? Okay, now let's take the case. I have two interfaces, right? Assume that the packets are coming in on one of the interface and it has to be sent out via the other interface. Okay. Now, at what rate the packets are coming in, if the same rate the packet can be sent out, we no need to worry about anything. See, think about you're buying a movie ticket. You're going, there is no one on the queue. You directly go to the counter, pay your money, and then you can go out. Same way, the other guy comes in, there is no one in the queue. He is going in and paying the money and buying the ticket and going out. Like this, if there are no demand, then obviously there won't be any queue at all. Now my point is, because it is a first day first show, everyone is trying to get the ticket, the queue is going to be there because everyone wants the ticket. They are waiting for their turn to pay the money and get the ticket. You understand? So if the input rate is not equivalent to the output rate, then the packet needs to be buffered. That buffering can happen on the hardware level can also be happening on the software level. Don't get confused. All these things are not required for your examination, but try to understand what I'm saying. The hardware queue, or we call it as a hardware buffer. Software queuing system is called as a software buffer. We have a hardware buffer, we have a software buffer. The hardware buffers are embedded on the interface level. So every interface has something called as what, a hardware buffer. I'm trying to send the packets out via an interface, but I'm not able to send all of them at once at the rate I'm receiving it. So what I have to do on the interface, we have to have some memory where the packets can be kept, and then when the turn comes, the packet can be sent out, and that is called as a hardware queue. On the system level, we can reserve some amount of memory for holding the data. Why would I do that one? The hardware queue is a fixed queue. We call it as first in, first out. That's the only queue we have it. You understand what I'm saying? We have only one queue which is called as a first in, first out. That means what? Whomever had come first on the queue, they have to go out first. So second person, second out. Third person, third out. That's what? FIFO, which is called as a fair queuing mechanism. Fair queuing mechanism. Whereas on the network, because there are different types of applications are going to be flowing through, we don't like this fair queuing. We want unfair queuing. That means depending on the application's requirement, the waiting period also needs to be decided. There are certain mission critical, business critical applications, and those applications needs to be processed first, whereas the people who are accessing the internet for something, they're searching for something, it can wait, whereas the business critical application, it can't wait. So we need to classify the applications. Then you have to identify what application is business critical, and that business critical application is going to be kept in a queue where the packets can be processed faster, so that it no need to wait for the turn. What I mean to say, the voice over IP application, I can put it in a business critical application. Because of that, the delay, jitter and the loss can be managed so that calls can be placed properly. You understand what I'm saying? புரியுதா எல்லாருக்கும் என்ன சொல்ல வரேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு? Hello? 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 Right, okay. So, how this is going to be happening abhinna, because we have different types of application, and every application's requirement is different. According to the requirement of the application, we wanted to handle the traffic which is meant for that application. So we cannot go with fair queuing. We wanted to go for what? Unfair queuing. Okay. So we can group the applications according to their requirement to different classes. Okay. So every class is going to be like what I can say that this is a class A. Let me call this. Where is my mouse? Okay. I can call this as what? Business critical. Like I can say this voice over IP data center applications. I can keep it in business critical application. Then I can keep it as a management traffic. I can say that SSH. Then SSL for the selected devices. Like this, I can create multiple classes. So class is called as what? A grouping of applications traffic which require the same amount of treatment, the same level of treatment, right? That's where the classes comes into picture. There are so many classes are there. Mission critical, transactional and interactive, best effort, scavenger. It's not that you have to have this kind of a classes. It is also up to you, your discretion to define what type of classes you want, right? So each and every class, you can aggregate the application's traffic, and then whatever the treatment you want, you can apply on that classes. That's what we call them as what? Classes. And those classes can be referred into specific policies, and that policy we will be able to define the actions on it. So for example, voice over IP application, I can give it as a platinum class with low latency. For mission critical, I can give guaranteed one, and transactional I can give you the guaranteed delivery. For best effort means no guaranteed delivery. Scavenger, if nothing is going to be affected, all of them are working fine, only then the scavenger class comes into picture. Like this, you can classify the traffic and you can group them within the class. Then you can start creating, what is it called? You can start giving the priority for them. Like voice over IP application, right? The bandwidth is going to be minimum of 1 Mbps, and then you can say the level 5. Because of that, it is going to be kept in something called as what? Low latency queuing. So we are creating the class, and the class of traffic is going to be called into a policy. Within the policy, we can define the policy, the application's requirement. What is the bandwidth required? What is the priority required? What is the queuing mechanism we are going to be using it? There are so many queuing mechanisms are there, like class-based weighted for queuing, hierarchical queuing, low latency queuing, priority queuing. There are so many queuing techniques are there. Don't worry about them. Okay? So our focus is not understanding each and every queue, how the process is going to be happening. We are not talking about that, right? So we are trying to understand there are different queues are there. We have different applications, and applications requirement also different. So depending on the applications requirement, we are grouping them into classes, and those classes are going to be called inside a policy. Then you can associate an action like what is the bandwidth requirement, what is the level of priority you need to give, then what is the queuing mechanism you would like to follow it. That's what the focus on that. Right, so there are certain processes, there are certain terminologies that you need to understand. The first terminology is called as what? Classification. So in our case, classification is nothing but identifying the application and keeping it in a specific class. That's what the classification. What I mean to say, if you are paying for a movie and you have paid 500 rupees, for an example, you have taken an executive class ticket. You have paid 500 rupees and they are giving you something like what? You can go over there and they are giving you a ticket, right? So you paid 500 because that is your requirement. That 500 rupee ticket is, the seating arrangement is in a different place, so it looks a different way. So that's the classification. You belong to an executive class. How people will know that you have paid 500 rupees? Okay, you paid 500 rupees and you are trying to enter into the gallery, and somebody will ask you, who are you, why you are entering in this gallery, and you have to prove that you have paid 500 rupees. So the moment you pay 500 rupees, as an acknowledgement, they are going to be giving you a ticket. What is the ticket? Ticket is an identification of the money whatever you have paid. I'm calling that as what? Marking. Why that marking is required? Because when I'm trying to enter into the gallery, somebody is asking the proof, I'm showing them, okay, this is the ticket, this is the color code, I have it. That's where the marking comes into picture. Then we have congestion management, and we also have congestion avoidance, right? So how the packets are going to be managed with respect to what, when a high volume of traffic is coming in, how we are going to be managing that congestion, right? So whereas congestion avoidance is going to be saying that there are two different concepts within the quality of services, which is called as the policing and also shaping. When I say policing, the bandwidth is going to be very strictly configured. What I mean to say, 1 Mbps means 1 Mbps, beyond the traffic can be dropped. When it comes to shape or shaping, 1 Mbps means 1 Mbps. I can also associate some additional buffer beyond the limit whatever you have allocated. The traffic is going to be buffered. Next turn comes in. If the bandwidth is free, then I can start sending the traffic. That's called as what? Shaping. So there are two different things. One is called as policing and shaping. Police is a strict bandwidth allocation, whereas shaping is going to be considered as loose bandwidth allocation. Bandwidth na enna theriyuma? You understand? Right. Okay. Avalda bandwidth. That is what bandwidth. If multiple applications are going in, assume that you have an IPTV at your home. You're also connecting to your class. Somebody is browsing the internet. Somebody is accessing the YouTube, and you have to manage the bandwidth. If not, what will happen? People, whomever is using the YouTube, may consume the whole available bandwidth. Because of that, the rest of the application may be affected. So to restrict the access to the YouTube, we can say that YouTube, this is the maximum bandwidth. That's what I can do it. Because of that, when all of these applications are currently accessing their the clients are accessing their respective application, YouTube will be given only the amount of bandwidth that you have restricted. Because of that, the rest of the application's communication will not be affected at all. You understand what I'm saying? So congestion avoidance and congestion management. That's what you need to do it. Now, in real life, we know that we are going to be giving the tickets, right? So you're paying 500 rupees, they're giving you the ticket. That's what the marking is all about. How about this is going to be happening in your network? So first of all, we have to identify the traffic, right? So when you are identifying the traffic, that identification can be happening through the help of access list or through the help of nbar. You can do variety of parameters. Once the classification is done, we have to give the ticket to the traffic. Okay, you belong to business critical, you belong to mission critical, you belong to transactional, you belong to scavenger. That kind of a classification we have to do it. So once the classification is done, we have to give them the ticket in the form of some labels. That labels is going to be defined as COS, TOS, DSCP. What I mean to say, COS, TOS, DSCP. Like we also have something called as TID. We also have something called as class selector. Okay. Now COS is nothing but class of service. TOS is nothing but type of service. DSCP is nothing but differentiated services code point. What is the differences? COS, we do this one in layer 2. According to the OSL layer 2 marking will happen. TOS, according to the layer 3 header, the marking is going to be happening. But both the cases, we have only 3 bits. If you have 3 bits, how many combinations are possible? 2 to the power of 3, so maximum of 8 combinations. So only 8 classifications could be possible, or 8 levels of tickets can be possible. Whereas in DSCP, you have 6 bits reserved. Of course, there are certain limitations on that, but anyway, 6 bits are there. So you can identify, you can create more number of classes, and you can uniquely identify each and every class through the help of a unique marking on that, right? So in COS and TOS, you have only 3 bits. Because of that, only 8 classifications are possible. Whereas in DSCP, since we have 6 bits, you have 2 to the power of 6, 64 combinations could be possible. Now where this is going to be done, in IP packet header, the DSCP is going to be encoded. Often TOS is also called as IPP. The TOS is there, na? Where is that? The TOS is there, na? We call it as IPP. The IPP stands for IP precedence. So that marking is going to be happening. I already told you policing and shaping is going to be there. And for managing the congestion, we also have something called as what? Random early drop, weighted random early drop. I'll tell you what is this. Okay. Let's assume that this is my router and this is my interface. I least bothered about my hard queue, but I have some soft queue. Okay. In soft queue, I have created 2-3 queues. Now the packets are coming in, okay? The packets are coming in on some of the interfaces. Now the packet, based on the classification, it may go to Q1, may to go to Q2, may also go to Q3. Now from Q1, you will be having the entry to the interface. Q2 also you will have an entry. Q3 also you will be having an entry. But my point is, if the queue is full, now what happens? This is not like a human queue. It is not like your real life. If the queue is full, you can also wait outside of the queue also. Whereas in production, in networking, if the queue is full, no packet can go into the queue, no packet can be sent. Because of that, the packet needs to be dropped. Because I cannot enter into the queue. Then this kind of a drop is called as tail drop. Okay? This kind of a drop is called as what? Tail drop. So because of this tail drop, even a high priority applications traffic could also be dropped. So to overcome this problem, what we are trying to do is, I'm just taking the queue number 1, okay? This is the buffer allocated for the queue number 1, and you have an entry to the interface. Now the packets are sent to the queue. Now the queue is filling up. Packet will also go at the same time. The buffer is also going to be filled up. Now what my point is, so I assume that I can have 100 packets being stored in the queue. If 50 packets have stored, I'm just giving an example, and 50 packets, half of the queue has been filled. Which means what? Still I have only 50% of the buffer, and if I continue storing the packets in the buffer, at the end, the tail drop is going to be happening. I don't want this tail drop to cause business critical application or high priority application to be dropped. Now what I do, once half the way the buffer is filled, I will start monitoring what packets are getting in. Multiple application packet can go to the queue. So every application may have a different priority of the same queue. Within the queue I can have different priorities also. So what I say is the high priority application traffic I will accept and send it. The low priority applications I will start dropping the packet at random. That's the reason it is named as something called as what? RED. What is that RED? Random early detection. Random early detection. What is the purpose of it? We wanted to keep the buffer free so that when new traffic comes in high priority application, it will not be dropped because of tail drop. You understand what I'm saying? Is that clear? ரெட்ன்றது ரேண்டம் ஏர்லி டிடெக்ஷன்மா. அதாவது என்ன சொல்ல வரேன்னா, பஃபர் ஃபுல் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா எல்லா பாக்கெட்டுமே ட்ராப் ஆக ஆரம்பிச்சிடும் இல்லையா? எல்லா பாக்கெட்டும் ட்ராப் ஆக ஆரம்பிச்சிடும். ஆனால் அந்த பஃபரை ஃப்ரீயாக வச்சுக்கணும்னா, எஸ் ஹலோ, அப்போ அந்த பஃபரை ஃப்ரீயாக வச்சுக்கணும்னா சில பாக்கெட்ஸை நான் முன்னாடியே ட்ராப் பண்ண ஆரம்பிக்கிறேன். எந்த பாக்கெட்டை ட்ராப் பண்ணுறேன்னா, எந்த பாக்கெட்டு ஒரு அப்ளிகேஷனோட ப்ரையாரிட்டிக்கு கம்மியாக இருக்கோ அந்த பாக்கெட்டை ட்ராப் பண்ணுறேன், ரேண்டமாக ட்ராப் பண்ணுறேன். ஆனால் ஹை ப்ரையாரிட்டி அப்ளிகேஷன் டிராஃபிக்கை நான் ட்ராப் பண்ணலை, அதை அப்படியே வச்சுக்கிட்டே இருப்பேன். ரைட்டா? அப்போ என்ன ஆகும்னா கியூ ஃப்ரீயாகவே இருக்கும். So on the threshold reach ஆனதுக்கு அப்புறம் packet dropping is going to be happening. So we call this as what? High priority application packets are not going to be dropped because of the tail drop. So I will start dropping low priority application traffic at random just to keep the buffer free always. புரியுதா என்ன சொல்றேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு? Right. So இதெல்லாம் தான் வந்து நம்ம என்னன்னு சொல்லுவோம்னாக்கா, we call this as what? QoS mechanisms அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். So already I told you what is that. Different types of classifications. You have marking. We also have something called as what? QoS models அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். There are two different models we used to talk about. One is called as differentiated services, right? Differentiated services, and then you also have in-serve, integrated services. Diff-serve and in-serve. There are two different things. I'll tell you. அப்போ மவுஸ் அப்பப்போ காணாமல் போகுது. In-serve, diff-serve. The meaning of in-serve and diff-serve is what? In-serve, we often call it as integrated services. What is that going to be happening? End to end, the quality of services needs to be, the quality of services requirement needs to be done. What I mean to say, if an application requires 1 Mbps bandwidth, end to end that 1 Mbps of bandwidth needs to be reserved before the application traffic can flow through. This is point number one. Point number two, even though that application is not using that 1 MB of bandwidth, the other applications cannot use that free bandwidth. Assume that I have reserved 1 MB of bandwidth for one application and it is using only 0.5 MB. The remaining 0.5 MB is free only. Nobody is using it. Why don't we give this bandwidth for the other application so that it can access its own, it can get some additional bandwidth? You cannot do that with in-serve. Whereas diff-serve, we normally call this as a PHB. What is the PHB? Per hop behavior. That means you can have a different set of requirements on one end, on the other side you can have a different requirement. For example, router 1 I can give the requirement for the bandwidth as 1 MB. For the router 2 I can give the requirement as 2 MB or 0.5 MB. I can do that one. In each and every device this is going to be happening. That's why we call this as differentiated services and per hop behavior. There are some classes there are some classes. What is that called? There is something called as what? Default PHB, which is going to be causing you tail drop, and we also have expedite forwarding, we also have assured forwarding, and we also have something called as class selector. Basically class selector is nothing but the mapping of DSCP to the TOS or a TOS to the DSCP. We call it as a IP precedence, right? So your DSCP marking to DSCP marking to your, what is that called? Your IP precedence mapping is what we typically call it as class selectors. Okay, these are all the markings that we need to be aware of it. So we have expedite forwarding, we have assured forwarding, we have class selector. You need to remember these things. Don't forget about this. Now when it comes to deployment, so we have to deploy end to end. So where do we configure the classification? At the nearest to the source. As the traffic is entering into the network, you have to start classifying it, and you have to start marking them. So the treatment is going to be happening on each and every hop, because we started using what is it called, DSCP, differentiated services code point, where per hop behavior is expected. On each and every router between the source and destination, you have the ability of defining what needs to be done on the identified traffic. Point number one. Point number two, router 1 may say that this is meant for a high priority application. On router 2, you may say that it is not a high priority application, it is a medium priority application. You can remark, okay, router 1 has sent the marking as what, high priority, you have paid 5,000 rupees. Whereas on router 2, okay, you paid 5,000 rupees, I am not denying it, but you are not priority 1, you are priority 2. Like that, the remarking can also be done. Reclassification and remarking could also be possible. So basically what we are trying to do is, first of all, define your objectives, identify the application, then design and test, do the implementation, and then monitor the policy whatever you have created. So first of all, you need to understand what all the applications are available within your organization, what is the requirement for those applications, which applications are business critical, and you can start designing your quality of services policy according to this, right? You understand? So first of all, we are defining the objective, then we are analyzing the applications within your organization. Based on your understanding, you design and test a policy, then do the implementation, then keep monitoring the policy. Based on your monitoring, again you may come up with different statistics, different change you would like to apply on the quality of services. So what is that we have to do on that? There are certain guidelines with which you will be able to deploy. What is that? Classify and mark application as close to their sources. Just now I told you, right? So classify and mark application as close to their sources as technically and administratively feasible. Like the traffic is entering into the network, immediately you have to start identifying them, what application it is, which queue I have to put it in, right? That is the one. The second one is police unwanted traffic flows as close to their source. Now the police what do you mean by police? Strict bandwidth restriction. So you have to start restricting the bandwidth for that application as near to the source. Because of that, no need to be traveling the traffic all the way to the destination and the packets are get dropped over there. Retransmission, again it has to start from the source to the destination. If you start identifying the application and restrict the bandwidth for that application near to the source, then immediately retransmission could also happen. The traffic no need to be traveling all the way to the destination or where you have done the policing. Always perform quality of services in hardware rather than software when you have a choice. Hardware means we are doing through the ASICs. Right? When you have ASICs, the acceleration will be better. Right? Enable queuing policies at every node where the potential for congestion exists. That means it is not that you enable the quality of services on one of the device, not configuring on the other device. It is not the recommended way of doing it. So when you are planning to implement the quality of services, try to implement at each and every possible locations. Protect the control plane and the data plane. What do you mean by that? Control plane is nothing but where the complete routing process is going to be happening, whereas the data plane is responsible for forwarding the traffic from one interface to another interface. So safeguard this control plane and data plane. Because of that, the control plane is not going to be overloaded. If the control plane is overloaded, then any changes with respect to forwarding decisions is not going to be as immediately as possible. So we need to make sure that the control plane is free, right, by restricting the bandwidth or by restricting the traffic towards your control plane. So this is what the recommendation given by Cisco with respect to what? Implementing or deploying end-to-end quality of services within an organization. First thing